Hey there, my budding mathematicians. Today we are talking about the order of operations. And we're going to answer the following questions. What do I do when I run into a bunch of numbers and signs all smashed together? What's an order of operations? Why do we have one? And what's this got to do with some crazy aunt? Let's find out. So on the screen you see two expressions. One is 7 times 4 minus 3, and the other is 9 plus 6 times 3. Here's the thing. I would like to evaluate these two expressions. However, I'm going to run into a problem. Without a clear order of operations, I could end up with two totally different answers. For example, if I look at 7 times 4 minus 3, I could say, okay, 7 times 4 is 28. Take away 3 is 25. But I also could look at it as 7 times the difference between 4 and 3, which would be 7 times 1, and that equals 7. Well, that can't be. Math doesn't work like that. The same group of numbers and symbols should give me the same answer every time. That's what a lot of you guys like about math. It's consistent. Okay, let's take a look at the second one. Here I've got 9 plus 6 times 3, and I again could look at it like two totally different things. I could say the sum of 9 and 6 is 15 times 3 is 45. Or I could look at this as 9 plus the product of 6 and 3. This could be 9 plus 18. Well, 9 plus 18 is going to be 27. And again, two totally different answers from the very same numbers. And in math, that's not a thing. So in order to keep that from happening, we developed an order of operations so that everybody would be doing the numbers the same way. As you can imagine, that could be a real problem. I mean, think for example, if you have two teams of engineers working on the same building and they did the numbers two different ways. Buildings would tip over, bridges would collapse, satellites would fall from the sky, terrible things would happen. So that's why we have established an order of operations. Here's how this works. Okay, we have a P for parentheses. Things in parentheses always go first. Okay, there's a set of parentheses. The second thing, the E, it stands for exponents, and you as fourth graders don't have to worry about that till next year, but it's these little numbers that hang down like that. So that's an example of an exponent. You won't need to worry about that for a while. You do have to worry about parentheses. So we have parentheses, exponents. Exponents aren't your problem. We have multiplying and dividing, and they're on the same line because that's how we do it. We multiply and divide depending on what you run into first as you go left to right. So this is multiply and divide. Now, I'm going to tell you, some adults have some trouble with this. A lot of grown-ups, even some teachers I have seen, think that we have to multiply before we divide. That is incorrect. Okay, we go left to right and we do the signs as we come to them, but we always multiply and divide before we add and subtract. And that is what the last two letters stand for, adding and subtracting. And just like multiplying and dividing, we do those as we come across them left to right. Okay, stop the video for a second and go ahead and jot these things into your notebook because you're going to need them. Now, one way people remember what to do in what order is using the mnemonic, "Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally." And so that's where the letters come in, and that's where the crazy aunt thing comes from. So please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, and subtract is the proper order of operations. So let's go back to our two examples we started with, 7 times 4 minus 3. Well, if I use my order of operations, what I find out is that, in fact, the first way I did this, 7 times 4 minus 3, is in fact correct because we multiply before we subtract. So 28 is the correct evaluation of that expression. Here, okay, I've got adding and subtracting on the same line, so I'm going to take it left to right. 8 plus 5 is 15. 15 minus 3 is 12. Here I've got parentheses, so no matter what operation I have, that's what I'm going to do first. Now in this case I would anyway even without the parentheses because division comes before adding, but you know, whatever. 6 divided by 3 is 2. 2 plus 5 is 7. Alright, let's get you some to try. Okay, stop the video, grab your notebook, go ahead and work these examples in that notebook and then we will check. You ready? Okay, so we've got 16 divided by 4 plus 3. The question is, do we divide first or do we add first? Well, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally tells me that we divide before we add. So 16 divided by 4 is 4 plus 3 is 7. Let's take it down here. We have 5 times 2 plus 6 divided by 3. Okay, well, we've got multiplying and dividing on the same line, so we're just going to go straight across. And because this kind of has extra steps, I'm going to make notes as I go. I'm going to do this one first because I multiply before I add. So 5 times 2 is 10 plus, now I'm going to take care of my division because it's to the right of multiplication. 6 divided by 3 is 2. Okay, now I can do it. 10 plus 2 is 12. This time I've got two things in parentheses, and I'm just going to go left to right. 7 plus 1 is 8, and 9 minus 6 is 3. And 8 times 3 is 24. Not too hard once you know what to do. Okay, so today we have answered the questions, what do I do when I run into a bunch of numbers and signs all smashed together? Well, I stop and look at the signs, and then I go to my order of operations. What's my order of operations? It tells me what operations I do first. So first I look for parentheses, and until next year I'm going to ignore exponents. Then I'm going to look for multiplying and dividing. They go on the same line left to right. Then I'm going to look at whether or not I got to add and subtract too. And then same deal, if there's more than one of those signs, I go left to right. Why do we have an order of operations? Because if we didn't, horrible things would happen, because people would do their math in different ways. And what's that got to do with some crazy aunt? Well, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally is a great mnemonic for remembering the different parts of the order of operations. Awesome, now you're ready to come over and see me and keep your learning going.